going on, everybody? It's your pal Spaz Phoenix, and this is FLIX. We're doing another trailer preview, reaction, review, whatever you want to call it. The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I did not know this was a thing until it came up in my YouTube suggestions, and I immediately got really excited for probably all the wrong reasons. Now, you guys know me. I like fucked up movies in general. I like fucked up concepts in general. I like the Hunger Games movies. I think Jennifer Lawrence, who we're going to talk about more later when I tell you one very specific thing that I find incredibly funny, is an absolute force in the original Hunger Games movies. And as a whole, they're fantastic. They have a lot of things to say socially. It does feed heavily into that. If you're affluent, if you're, financially gangbusters, if you're successful, if you're upper crust, whatever, you're automatically a bad person, which is a mentality that I entirely don't agree with. That's something that can be made into another conversation on another day, not having to do with this particular movie. But I love it as a concept. I love it as a, here's this fucked up thing that everybody just accepts. And you have to accept it as a movie watcher, because by the time you're catching up with these characters, it's already an established thing. The idea of the Hunger Games being a thing, like not the Hunger Games the movies, but like the Hunger Games, the games themselves, pick two representatives from every district, and they're going to have to fight to the death. And, I think it's, the numbers are going to escape me now. Isn't it like 12 districts, so 24 kids, 23 are going to die, and one sort of gets treated like a hero and gets to hang out with the rich people. I love it as a concept because it immediately makes you ask, how did we get there? How did people let this happen? How does everybody nod and say, okay, this is just a thing that we do now? And the fact that this is a prequel, an origin story, first of that, it's in that vein, and every single movie. Initially, I rolled my eyes, because every single movie franchise, once they've gone so far forward, they have to do the prequel series, they have to do the origin story, they have to do what happened before you knew these characters, these concepts, these worlds, etc. And I rolled my eyes instantly. But then the next thing that I thought was, what's the other thing that I like as much as the Hunger Games, as far as how did we get here? Well, there's Saw, which is not the best example, but also there's The Purge. You get dropped into The Purge, and I think there's another one coming, I don't know, but you get dropped into the first Purge movie, as The Purge is a thing that already exists, and we're just following one family through it. Eventually, they did The First Purge, which was, I think, the fourth movie, ironically enough. And because that hunger, that want to know of, like, oh my god, how did society allow this to happen, was so strong by the third movie, when you saw all the terror that it wrought through the country, you had to know, how did we get this far? And I think doing something like that for the Hunger Games is awesome. I think having something like that, it's not the very first Hunger Games, it's like the 10th, but I believe when we watch the first Hunger Games movies, they're going into the 49th or 50th Hunger Games, so we're going back at least 40 Hunger Games to see sort of the origin story. Now, I don't know that it's going to be the same as the first Purge, but it was the immediate thing that I thought of. Now, when you go to the Hunger Games movies, it's not everybody, it's not the whole world, it's a collection of like 24 kids or whatever, which is also ironic on a total side tangent, because after the suggestions of very, 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 very many people, I finally gave in and threw on Crave and started watching Yellow Jackets, which is also a bunch of kids out in the wilderness, kind of stranded, kind of depending on whatever they find, and doing absolutely horrific things to each other. So it's all coming together. Series that I like, awesome. Prequel cliche at this point that I'm willing to excuse for the same reason that I'm willing to excuse it for The Purge and Saw and all those types of things. Absolutely check. Now, what's sticking out to me in this trailer? We're being introduced to the guy that invented the Hunger Games themselves, and that's being played by Peter Dinklage, which is fucking awesome. There are actors, there are actresses, or female actors, depending on which terminology you prefer. I'm not trying to be an asshole. That immediately bring weight to a movie, and I will watch the fuck out of that. Peter Dinklage is one of them. You know, Peter Dinklage we saw in, what was it? It was either Thor or Infinity War, when he made the hammer thing for Thor and all that kind of thing. We also saw him in one of the earlier X-Men movies as random scientist guy, I think. And then obviously made his big name, made his big dramatic punch with oh, that's terrible, why can't I think? Game of Thrones, there we go. So immediately you have my attention with Peter Dinklage playing this character, this I would assume very, very insidious character who came up with such a horrible concept as let's sacrifice 23 of a random 24 kids from our community and what have you. What gets me even more in the trailer, though, is the person at the podium introducing the Peter Dinklage character is played by Viola Davis, who's fucking phenomenal. Who I saw in the series. If you guys have watched it, if you haven't, I really do suggest it. Check out the show. It's over now, but go back, find on whatever streaming service you can find the show How to Get Away with Murder. She's fantastic. She's on top of everything 1 minute, she's absolutely at the bottom of the barrel the next minute. She's, you know, an absolutely caring person in some regards. She's an absolutely evil person in other regards, and she navigates all those parts with an acting range that is second to none. Can make herself look absolutely glamorous, make herself look absolutely like she's hanging on by a thread. I think she's fantastic. I think if you've got a cast, and I've gone through the cast on the IMDb, I did kind of cheat a little bit, didn't see very many other names that I recognized, I'm not going to lie. But if you've got a cast headed up by Peter Dinklage, Viola Davis, and they're going to be the devious individuals that introduced the Hunger Games to this world, there's some absolute evil possibilities in that. I'm not going to lie. Now, where does my sarcasm come in? Where does my I chuckle because I'm a bad person come in? Where does my, you know, for those of you that follow my wrestling content, you know, I always say a lot of the time, you know, I like this because it pisses off all the right people. I like this because it absolutely tickles me. Jennifer Lawrence was the centerpiece, the absolute deserving tour de force centerpiece of the first 4 Hunger Games movies. Jennifer Lawrence also recently, in an interview, made some claims that she, and she alone, in 2012, in the first Hunger Games movie, was the one that broke the ceiling and was the first woman to lead an action movie. That's laughable, especially if you're somebody like me who's going to snap so far back to before I was born to Sigourney Weaver heading up the Alien franchise. If you don't believe me, go check out Kristen and I, a long time ago, did reviews for Alien and Aliens. Alien 3, the recording got lost, but yes, it is true. I did in fact say Alien 3 is basically Shawshank Redemption in space. It's fine. She said that. She made the claim, and, you know, it's part of the culture that we live in these days, you know, people looking for victim cards, and and I don't really want to get into it. And she said in 2012 she broke the glass ceiling and finally showed that women could head up action movies, and I thought that was absolutely laughable. And because I enjoy Jennifer Lawrence as a character actor, as an actor, as a personality, really, I looked at that and I was like, oh, that's really unfortunate. Now, why does that matter to this movie? Because obviously she's not in this movie. It's a prequel. The woman sitting across the interview stage from her when those stupid words came out of her mouth was, in fact, Viola Davis. And I love that. I love that a whole lot. So I'm really looking forward to this. Yes, that there's a little tiny 1% sarcastic part of my brain that's going to love it on that level. Realistically, Peter Dinklage, Viola Davis, we're doing the, as I said, we're doing the how did society get this low or high, depending on your point of view thing. We are, as I said, pushing forward with the narrative that all the Hunger Games movies have, that, you know, basically rich people are all assholes and they treat the poor people like they're toys to play with and whatever, which is not a mentality that I agree with in real life. But as a structure in fiction, it is pretty easy to play with. I'm not gonna lie. They also talk in the trailer about the introduction of the idea of mentors. I mean, Woody Harrelson in the original Hunger Games movies, you know, way drunk off his ass, played the mentor to Peeta and to Katniss. And we see very, very early on in the trailer, the young guy that's going to be the mentor in this is told point blank by the Viola Davis character, you are not here to turn these kids into survivors. You are here to turn them into spectacles. Which brings me to the point of, at least I interpret it this way. I interpret it as, okay, if they've done 10 Hunger Games, then it's not really an origin story, but they say, they introduce the host of the Hunger Games, and he says, I'm the first person to ever host the Hunger Games. So while they may have already been doing the Hunger Games, I get the feeling from this trailer that this is the first time that the Hunger Games were televised, were the spectacle, were the entertainment to the rich masses, were, you know, sending the lowly folks to the Colosseum to fight the lions, if you want me to use a really, really labored cliche. And if that's the case, that in and of itself, you know, okay, we're going to be this big overbearing rich government that abuses all these people and puts them in all these situations, that's one thing. If we do it very, very clearly and obviously for our own entertainment, that doubles down on the horribleness of it all. Now, I want to take a step away from the people and take a look at the concept for a second. The original Hunger Games, it looks like they're on an island of some description, and that entire island is scoped out by all kinds of security and 3D models and holograms and all that kind of thing. And it's got technology out the ass. Well, technology / magic, because they make monsters out of nowhere and set fires remotely and all that sort of thing. But they basically create a world. They create a Truman Show-esque universe for these fighting kids to fight in, and I think that's really awesome. What I love about this is because it's so early in the history of the Hunger Games. It's only the 10th, not the 49th or 50th. It hasn't gotten that big yet, or at least that's the feeling that you get. They are fighting quite literally in a very small, you know, fighting pit, Colosseum type of structure. It already looks like it's run down a little bit, so 10 rounds of the Hunger Games is going to do that. But to have this small claustrophobic fighting space where all the other times they've been these big, vast jungle, desert, forest, waterlogged type areas is going to be another thing that's going to change the entire game. It's, again, if I can go back to the Saw comparison, it's Jigsaw when you see him in Saw, when he's got all the, you know, sort of the more advanced, more intricate, beautiful, if you want to use that word, traps, versus every time there's a flashback, every time there's a flash to the time before, they were much more rudimentary, much more mechanical, much more clunky in their use. So it's a first round, it's a stage one, it's a round one of the entire Hunger Games concept. So I'm really excited about this. I'm really intrigued by this. Like I say, the members of the cast that I know have a lot of weight. You've got a series that I already kind of love. You've taken out the one actress that's kind of made herself look like an idiot over the past year or so by the virtue of the fact that it is a prequel, it is an origin story. There's all the pieces coming together for this to be an absolutely fantastic, you know, fictional epic, you know, fictional time at the movies. I'm losing my words a little bit because it's stupid o'clock in the morning as I'm recording this, but the trailer looks gorgeous. I'm sure we'll get more. Looking down the description right now, actually, Doesn't come out till November, so I'm sure we will get a lot more footage, a lot more different trailers, maybe some interviews and whatnot about what else to expect from this. Yeah, I don't know. I've got curiosities right off the bat. Even if this is the 10th one, I do want to see, or at least hear somebody tell the story of the first one, because the first one kicks it all off. I go back to, again, my example of the first Purge. How did we make it happen? Oh, well, we tried it just on an island with a couple thousand people before we tried it out on the whole fucking country. Did they do a small one? Did they go to one district and say, hey, just take 2 of your kids and make them fight to the death? And then did they decide, okay, we can spread this across all the districts and keep it all in line? Because parents want to save their kids and not have their kids be put through this kind of, wretched stuff. I do like as well if you watch all the other Hunger Games movies, it's the various symbols with the bird in the gold ring and whatever. I believe, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, obviously down in the box below, or hit me up at Spaz Phoenix if you want to throw a criticism my way. I think this is the first time that the symbol for the movie has had 2 different animals in it. It's always been some variation of the bird, I think, because, the mockingjay, etc. But if this is the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and you've got the bird flying over the snake in the symbol, and I know that that's only going to matter until the opening credits are done, and then it's not going to matter ever fucking again, because everything else in all the other movies had to do with the pin that Katniss got from her sister. But from a visual, hey, that's familiar, but we've put a new twist on it. Literally twist, because it's a snake. Ha ha ha. Really, really cool. Everything looks golden, and everything looks overseen by the evil powers that be, and it's not something you watch for fun, because the people that you're watching are not having a good time at all. But as I said, and I'm getting repetitive now, it's a hell of a story framework to play with, and not a particular cinematic world that I thought I was going to be going back to in trailer form today. I'm not going to lie. Anyways, I've rambled on for quite long enough. Did you guys see the trailer? I'm going to put the link to the trailer in the description box below if you want to check it out for yourself. If you want to check it out before, actually, doesn't make any sense now, but I was going to say, if you want to check it out before you hear all my rambling, but if you've made it this far, you've already heard all my rambling. So go check out the trailer if you haven't already seen it. It's going to be down in the box below. Let me know what you think. Put it in the comment section. If you're watching this on Rumble, if you're watching this on YouTube, put it in the comment section. If you're listening to me on Anchor or Spotify or iTunes, like I say, hit me up at Spaz Phoenix. Let me know. Give me your 2 cents. Are you looking forward to this? Is this a franchise that you're into? Is it a franchise you're not into? Are you going to go watch this one and then catch up on the other 4 afterwards? People do that sometimes. I really don't know. Rambling. That's all I got to say. I'm really excited about this. I'm going to go see it when it comes out. And I guess that at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. I've been Spaz. This has been FLIX. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation, keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I'll talk to each and every last one of you later, but for right now, I'm out of here. Bye, guys.